If you're a leader, you have to empower the team. And it's not because you're lazy, you don't want to make decisions. It's because they need to feel like they're running the company, because they are.
Welcome to the Confident Podcast. I am Lisa Tarkington, your guide to mastering confidence and leadership. As a business and life coach, keynote speaker, and the driving force behind LEAD, I am here to help you break free from self-doubt, silence the imposter syndrome, and step into your power as the person you're meant to be. If you press play today, it's because you're ready for something bigger. Each week, I'll bring you real, raw conversations and actionable insights that will empower you to redefine your leadership, reclaim your confidence, and transform into the unstoppable force you've always known that you could be. This isn't just another podcast. It's a journey we're on together. So buckle up and let's dive into this transformation. Your next level awaits. Hi, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Confident Podcast. I am your host, Lisa Tarkington, and I'm really excited about today's conversation. We're going to be talking about leadership lessons, things that we've learned, things that we've overcome. And I say we, but really we're going to be talking to my really, really good friend, Logan, who was on the podcast a while ago. He actually was on it, I would say about 2 years ago. We did it in his office. We didn't have production then, and we just had like a really frank leadership conversation around confidence and being authentic to ourselves. And I wanted to bring him back because, as I shared 2 years ago when he was on, but we have so many new listeners, Logan was a very, very big advocate for me becoming who I am today when it comes to business. So he was the first person that advertised for me for free when I built my nonprofit. He was one of the first people to donate, and he has been someone through every year of growth and changes for myself and my personal life and professional life, has been an advocate for how I lead differently, things I need to change up, but also how do I stay true to what I'm good at and how do I grow in those areas. Logan not only has helped me, but he's helped many, many individuals as well. And I think that that is just so amazing about him. He started a company called Realty in 2015, and since then he's just projected to build other companies. He's an amazing entrepreneur, an amazing girl dad, and just such a good leader. And so today the conversation is really around lessons that Logan's learned, things that he brings to the table and things that he's learned, but also things that he's changed. And it doesn't really matter where you are in your leadership journey. I will tell you it's a must listen to because it's a great conversation about things that you can take away to really grow the cultures that you want, grow as a person that you want to be, and just dive into all of that. So let's get into it. Let's welcome Logan to the podcast. All right. Well, welcome Logan to the Confident Podcast. You have been on before. So we had a great conversation then, but we're going to be talking about something different today. We're going to be talking about leadership lessons. So to kind of get started, like I've already shared my background with you and like our relationship and our friendship, but like I'd love the audience to just hear from you a little bit about like your personal and professional background.
Sure, thanks. It's interesting to be on this side of the couch.
I bet.
'Cause I do the Talk Midland podcast. Yep. I'm sitting in your chair, and it's interesting over here, but I like it. It's a good light. My claim to fame from a business standpoint is Modern Realty. Opened Modern Realty in July 1st of 2015. Prior to that, I was a real estate agent at another brokerage. Real estate has always been my passion and my trajectory for my business life. I always knew I wanted to be involved in real estate from a very young age. And so I had the opportunity to become an agent after grad school, moving back to Midland. And I did that for a while. My intent when I started was I just wanted to be an investor. I wanted to buy, fix, and sell real estate. And what happened shortly was I started running into clients at foreclosure houses, and I started meeting with people. And next thing you know, I became a salesperson, which I had never been before. And that led, after a few years, to a little bit of an itch to want to do my own thing and start my own company and kind of do it my own way. So that's how Modern Realty was formed. And like I said, it was 2015. Obviously, it'll be 10 years coming up this next year that it's been in business in Midland as a small business in this community. So it's a very exciting time for us, and it's grown a lot over that period of time. And it's been a fun journey along the way.
That's awesome. And I feel like even with some of the lessons that you've taught me over the years, like your reach is more, because like I think one of the things with our podcast is like we're not just in Midland, we're across the United States and stuff. And so I even think some of the skill sets that you've taught me, like, and we'll dive into those here in a second, is like works for everybody listening. It doesn't matter where you live, right? And like the business mindset that you have. I mean, I'm going to go back to a year, or you said 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2016 is when you sold me my house,
Yep.
right? And I remember your location at the time. And then I think about where you are today, and it's like triple the size, quadruple, would you say?
Yeah, we grew pretty quickly because we had a small building when we started on Bayless Street, and it had 5 or 6 offices. It was kind of a cool thing. When we opened that business, there was only 2 or 3 agents with me.
Wow.
And we went, I think, from 2 or 3 to 12. And so every time a new agent came on board, whether we recruited them from another place or if they learned how to become an agent with us, the offices kept getting gobbled up. So I physically stationed myself in each office of that building, and then eventually they moved me down to the basement.
Oh, no way.
And so I did business out of the basement. And I
Leader
think
had to move in the basement.
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
And at the time, I don't know if I realized it at the time, but I think what I was doing when we started in 2015 and we had that little building was I wanted the agents to feel special. I wanted them to feel important and powerful and appreciated.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to have nice office space to meet with their clients. So as new agents came in, I continually just gave up my office, my space to the new agent, so they felt secure in where they had joined to sell real estate. And I think that's what a good leader does. I think is they step out of the way and promote the people that you're trying to lead and teach and train and foster success. And I also think that a lot of people appreciated that from their side of the coin, was they saw that I was humble. I was willing to go down in the basement and meet my clients in a an unfinished space. And if I could do that, then they could do what they needed to do in the nice offices, and it was no problem. And it never occurred to me that I needed the big office or any of that stuff, because I just think nobody respects that. Nobody respects somebody who just wants the big front office and wants to feel important and have those things around. And it was a very blue collar approach to growing that company. And I don't regret that at all. I think that was an interesting opportunity to have a chance to jump from office to office and to watch other agents thrive in the spaces upstairs.
Yeah. And they did thrive, and they're still thriving, which is awesome. And so like you also brought up when you were kind of sharing, like, I worked for other people. I kind of, dabbled into different things. And so like, as someone who is in leadership, and I know you personally, you have a visionary mindset. So like, tell us how you took that vision to reality.
Well, that's a good question. When we opened the company, it was July of 2015. I got married in August. I went on a 4-week honeymoon in September.
Wow.
So it was a wild time. And at the time when we opened the company, I wasn't even sure I wanted to do it. But where I was, there were some reasons to make the move and everything. And it was a very exciting experience to build a new company, to build it quickly, to create a brand, to create a name, to create signage, folders, flyers, business cards, open an LLC, find a building, buy a building, move everything over, and then obviously have some other personal stuff going on at the same time. So I don't know what really caused it, other than I always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. I always wanted to do my own thing. I wasn't thriving where I was. I was being held back a little bit. There was some jealousy almost of my success. And so one of the lessons that I learned right away when I became a leader of the company was I needed to promote and encourage and be proud of the people that come to learn and join our group. And the better they do, the more successful I have been. And so now today, 10 years later, I'm like the 15th top selling agent in the company or something. There's a bunch of agents that are selling well and that are doing high levels of volume and succeeding year after year. And that doesn't scare me. I'm proud of that. And frankly, I'd love to be the lowest selling agent in the company, because that means everybody else in the company is thriving and doing well. And that's what a good real estate broker is supposed to be doing anyway, is supporting and encouraging the team to thrive. And you have to be proud of that and not threatened by it, I think.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like in the beginning, because you're like, I've always been the top.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been the top seller. But I'm hearing or what you're saying and what I'm hearing you say is like, because you had jealousy before, you knew what that felt like, and it didn't feel good, so you didn't want that again.
Right, exactly. And it's a little bit of an ego thing too. A little bit of ego is okay, but too much is counterproductive.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I mean, there's nothing. I get the value. My ego is encouraged by seeing the success of my team. That's what makes me proud. I don't necessarily need to be the top selling agent to be proud, if that makes any sense. And that's certainly how it's become. And I think part of the reason that some of the agents that have decide to work with us, as opposed to the other choices that they have, is because of that environment. And they know that it's important to us that they thrive and succeed. And so whether you're leading a business or part of a company, that's the environment that you want to look for, one in which you are going to be propped up and propelled and encouraged and supported in your growth rather than your leaders threatened by that. Because that just doesn't work.
No, and I can think back to many experiences where that's how a leader felt. And I think lesson learned there is sometimes we just learn from experience, right? Like I felt this way, don't want other people to feel this way, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, okay, you have this vision, you bring it to reality, but there's also a lot of tough things that come with being a leader, right? And I think sometimes people are like, well, I want to be a leader because I want to be at the top. And I always tell people like, it can be lonely up there sometimes. So like, what is one of the toughest decisions you've ever had to make as a leader? And how did you approach it?
Well, I do agree that being the leader is great for some reasons, and it's a heavy burden for others. I remember COVID when nobody could show a house for months, but the bills kept coming in.
Yeah,
so that was the first
point.
Yeah, that was the first time where nobody wanted to be the broker.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think growing the company and getting to break even and getting to profitability, those are challenging, milestones in and of themselves in any business, but it's also kind of fun and exciting.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that we grew from a small boutique little brokerage into a 50 plus agent brokerage was because you have to be profitable in this business model. It's very thin margins when you're talking about the way we have it set up anyway. So going from 12 to 25, that's where you get to profitability. Then from 25 to 50, now there's more meat on the bone for the business itself. But to answer your question, I think the hardest things that I've dealt with inside of growing this particular business is letting an agent go, and letting an employee go. Very hard for me. Not the physical act of doing it, but the decision to let somebody go is very hard for me because we have a culture that once you're in, you're in.
Your family.
Once you're on the ship, you're on the ship no matter what. And it takes a really, really bad transgression to lose that loyalty, if you will. The first time I had to do it was with a friend of mine and somebody who I cared about and who I still care about. And luckily we've repaired this friendship, years later. But it was really hard to make a decision that hurt one individual for the sake of the group, if that makes sense.
Yep, it totally does.
But over the course of 9 years, we've had some wonderful employees and team members, and we've also had some that weren't a good fit. And I think if I made one of the mistakes that I've made and learned from is holding on to those people a little bit too long because of that loyalty, because of that, I don't know if loyalty is the word, but just not wanting to give up on somebody.
Yes, totally.
And when you make a decision to come join a group, that's a hard decision. And we want to honor and respect that decision and pour into that person as deeply as we can before a line is crossed, and that's too much. So yes, that's really, for me personally, has been the hardest thing, is trying to balance loyalty and extra chances and retraining and all that stuff with what's best for the rest of the group. And I found that those decisions, while financially they hurt the company, the morale improvement from finding the right balance has been a game changer.
That's awesome and also difficult, right? And so it sounds like, is it more so now that you're just trusting yourself quicker? Are you making those decisions quicker because of it? Or like what's shifted in that mindset for you?
Well, when you hire an agent, it's hard to tell how they're going to perform.
Okay.
And I usually hire them off of one interview. So there's a lot of instinct, there's a lot of gut feel, there's a lot of risk, frankly. Some are going to succeed and some are just not going to do well and some are not going to be a fit. But I think the difference over the course of several years, Lisa, is that I have changed my priorities. So my priorities used to be P&L, profit, loss, revenue, net income, profit.
Yep.
And now it's more about cohesion and cohesiveness. In other words, if we're bringing in a new person, my first thought is not what's the likelihood of success. It's more what's the likelihood of culture fit. And that and in doing so, you lose a lot of revenue because you don't hire everybody.
Yeah.
And so I've seen, frankly, I've seen a couple agents come in and interview that I've decided weren't a good fit, and they've gone on to other places, and you see that in the course of the industry. And of course, I root for them, and I hope they do well, and hopefully they work. But it makes me feel good about the decisions I've been making lately to protect the continuity of the team, because that's what really matters more than the bottom line.
When did you make that shift? Because I know that for me, and you have to still run a business at the end of the day, but you also have to have a good culture. It's like, you need both, but you have to start at one. So do you regret starting with profit loss and then moving to that? Or what do you think, where you are today?
I don't regret much. I think, everybody we hired has had a good opportunity, and many of them have done well. And many of the ones that turn out to not to be great culture fits, they fit in somewhere better, somewhere else, and that's okay. I think you have to have revenue to sustain a company.
Yeah, totally.
And also you have to learn lessons before you know this wisdom. You don't know the value or the importance of good culture fit when you're hiring, when you've never hired before. These are things that you learn.
Totally.
But I'll tell you now, I'm very comfortable with the environment that we built in the culture, and so I'm very protective of that now. And that's something that I think you learn as you grow over the course of a decade of leadership.
I think that's a great point, because I think when you start to be a leader, you're like, here's all the things I'm going to do and not do because of you from past experiences. But until you become that leader, you're like, oh yeah, this is a little bit harder. Because you have to make decisions. Your first hire is not always maybe the best, right? The first fire that you have to do, you're probably like, that was really tough for me to do. And I would say this, like in your 10 years, it's not that you get numb to those things. It's still tough, but you feel, I'm assuming, more confident in your decisions.
100%.
Yeah. So, okay, tough decisions. Now tell us something that, like, share a moment, maybe something didn't go as planned. And like, what were your leadership lessons that you took away from that could help someone?
Well, we've had a couple struggles over the course of the last 10 years. Not many, to be honest with you. Our upward trajectory has been very steep. I mean, it's been literally exponentially.
Yeah, you're the
growing.
reason that I would actually go into real estate, which is so funny. Like
cool.
Earlier when you said this, like you were like, yeah, I've always wanted to go into real estate. And I was like, I've never thought of that until honestly you share updates on your social of like your growth as a company and your goals. And I'm like, that sounds like cool and interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I don't need any more jobs, but like it is intriguing to me because of how you change your approach. So anyways, keep going, because I had to share that.
I appreciate that. I've had a lot of success investing in people just like you that I can see the spark. And because you can kind of see it in somebody. It takes a certain personality profile to be a successful realtor. It's a hard job. It takes a lot of different, self-motivation and confidence and proactive action and things like that. But I think one of the biggest feelings of gratitude I've felt over the course of this time is watching new agents succeed.
Yeah.
Now, to answer your question, what comes with that also sometimes is agents leave you. There's a lot of movement in the real estate industry, just like the lending industry. People move from brokerage to brokerage all the time. And every brokerage around town is always trying to recruit our agents away. It's a constant threat. And that's just the way the industry is. Brokers are trying to reach out to your agents, and they have transactions, and they talk, and they do coffee, and they send letters and thank you cards, and they're always trying to recruit. And that's just the nature of the business. So retention has become very, very important, trying to create that culture where people want to stay, because where you sell real estate, you can do it anywhere, pretty much. So where you go and the environment that you foster is something that I'm always trying to improve. But over the course of time, you can lose focus. And when you lose focus on building that culture and that environment, agents look for that elsewhere. And so we had a couple of years ago where I was focusing on some other business endeavors and some other stuff, and I took my eye off the ball a little bit, and we lost a few agents. And it's devastating. And some of the agents, every agent hurts when they leave. It hurts your ego, it hurts your self-esteem,
Totally.
but it's also feels like a breakup.
Yeah, totally.
And unfortunately, a lot of times they don't do it the right way. And they'll send you an email after their license has been transferred, or they'll leave a note, or they won't even tell you. And you'll find out every time I get an email from the Department of Licensing from Michigan, my heart flutters for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Because that's when you get the notice of agent has transferred to a new brokerage, and you look at it, you see which one it was, and you're like, oh, why couldn't you have come talk to me at least? I'll tell you another thing that's very strong with me. If you want to make a tough decision like that, set a meeting in the office, face to face. State your intent, ask for support, and shake hands. Do it the right way. I've had a couple that have done that too. I've also had a couple that have come to me over the years and say, hey, I'm considering making a change. And nobody who's ever done that has actually done it.
Wow.
Because if they come in and they say, hey, I'm considering making a change, it raises my alertness. And now I can pour into this person and say, okay, why? What do you need? What are you missing? What are we missing? What do we need to do to make you feel comfortable? What support do you need? And then that gives me and the team an opportunity to actually provide it. So it's very disappointing and very sad when somebody decides to leave your company or leave your team to go to another place, especially when they do it in a less than honorable way, it hurts even more. And it creates a little bit of bitterness and resentment.
Yep.
Certainly there's pain,
Yep, totally.
You lose revenue,
Yep.
and that hurts the staff. And one of the things that you have to understand that agents don't ever think about because they're doing their own thing is the agents bring in revenue. Revenue pays for staff. Staff has families and they have, careers that need to be sustained. And if enough agents leave, you have to cut down on your staff or your other services. So when somebody leaves a brokerage, it hurts the whole brokerage, not just, the owner of it. And so that's the disappointment that you feel in this business.
Yeah.
So you asked me what was the greatest disappointment. It's every time an agent leaves.
Yeah.
It devastates me. It hurts,
I feel that to my core because I think about the emails, like what you said is like you have that feeling, and I think too, like you make a great point as a leader. Like it's not that you ever want someone to leave, but like you also like it's not that you want to. I'm not gonna say like want to be friends all the time afterwards, but it's like you want to like if you see them on the streets or you run into them and maybe you're working with another client or something, like it's cordial and good, but when it ends that way, it's not always easy to do that stuff.
Yeah, and that's something that's part of growing up and part of maturing as a leader. And I still struggle with it, but I think I've gotten a little better. But at the beginning, I certainly was not. I was not capable of just letting it go. And you hold on to it, and you see that across the industry too. Because when I left, there was that, and anytime somebody leaves, it's a feeling of rejection, and rejection leads to pain and bitterness and anger. I try to do my best to be respectful and to be encouraging, and that's hard. But because I'm the kind of person, there's two dugouts. You're either in the dugout with us or you're in the other dugout. And so when you choose to leave our dugout to go to the other dugout, you're on the other team now.
Yeah.
And that's how I see life. A lot of people would disagree with that or say, Logan, come on, grow up. everybody's you love everybody and that's it. But it is a competition for resources, and sales get made either by our brokerage or the competing brokerage. And that's just kind of how I look at it, because I'm looking at the numbers and the sales and the revenue and the margins and all that stuff.
Yep.
So every business owner leader, I think they look at the landscape of their industry a little bit differently through that lens, at least partially. So when somebody leaves or hops off to another place, that hurts in many ways. So we try to do everything we can to create high levels of retention. And every quarter when we have our quarterly meetings, one of the first things that I always put on the SWOT analysis for threats is agent retention. And what do we do to increase that? What do we do to promote people seeing the value in the company that they're working for through both the culture, the value proposition, the services, and everything that we provide? And I think that's what we've done really well, is we provide these services that we've kind of adjusted the normal real estate sales brokerage model a little bit to make it a little bit more appealing to agents to work with us. We have the top selling agent in Midland that sells more than other brokerages combined. Yeah. He stays here every year because he gets that support and he gets that, that help and the team environment and all the things that have been fostered as a result of this, concentration, I think have led to that 20% market share, that sustainability that we have as a company. And I look forward to continuing trying to build upon that into the future.
Yeah. And so with that, obviously this is the Confident Podcast. So how do you balance, being a leader is tough work. It is. And also at the same time, Logan, you're also selling yourself. Mm-hmm. You have a family, right? You have all these things. And so your mind is probably just going all the time, all the things, right? And so how do you balance having confidence in yourself in these moments, just in life in general, but also just kind of when things change, adapting to all these changes that happen?
That's a great question. And confidence is a skill, I think. Mm-hmm. I think you've said that. You've taught me that.
Yeah.
Confidence is something that you constantly need to work on. And some people have a natural abundance of it, and some people have a natural shortage of it. And I think a lot of that comes from a lot of factors, how you grow up and your parents and your friends and your family and the way you look and what you're good at and what you struggle with and the successes and the failures that you've had in life. I've always had a reasonable level of confidence in myself. My parents raised me to feel comfortable in my own skin and confident in my own abilities. But I'm not without insecurities, and everybody, especially, we always talk about this with women, but men have insecurities just like women do. They present and hide them a little bit differently, I think.
Agreed.
And I think a leader doesn't need to show too much vulnerability or insecurity, because that leads to lack of confidence in the leader. I think there's a balance.
Yep.
Okay. I think if you think about a leader like a president or a CEO or whatever, you want that person to be a shining light of strength and encouragement and support and a foundation of trust. But also, it's okay if they show a little bit of insecurity and uncertainty at times, just to balance it with, so you're not coming across as disingenuous. But leaders need to be tough. Leaders need to be confident. Leaders need to be strong. And I never realized that more than I keep going back to this COVID thing, because there was a lot of fear and panic in the real estate industry, just like every industry.
Yeah.
And we leaned into it. So we did Zoom calls 3 times a week.
Wow.
And had the whole team on the Zoom calls. We innovated, and we were constantly giving out statistical updates, projections of what we thought was going to happen with the different rules and everything, and also figuring out ways to stay confident and stay focused in a period of time that was very uncertain. Yeah. So that was, I think, my first struggle with having to demonstrate confidence, because I'm the one paying the bills.
Yeah.
And there's no revenue coming in.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be confident, but I could either go out there and cry and complain and moan and tell everybody in the company that, hey, this is terrible, the world's going to end. Or I could keep paying full payroll. I can keep paying full salary. I can keep paying the mortgage on the building, and I can tell everybody it's going to be okay. I don't know when this is going to be over, but until it is, we're going to work through it and do what we can. We're going to innovate. We're going to do virtual open houses, virtual showings.
Yeah. Okay,
we're going to do what we need to do to move forward. And one of the interesting results of that was we gained massive market share during the COVID pandemic in that year. In fact, we had our highest market share ever that year.
Wow.
Because everybody else was retreating and receding, and we moved forward in the ways that we could. And so I think people need that in a leader. Confidence is very, very important. Not arrogance, not fake confidence, and certainly not, rigid, nothing but confidence.
Yeah.
Show a little bit of vulnerability, but let everybody know, hey, I'm feeling this too. I'm worried about this too. But here's what we're going to do. And we're going to take a mindset and an approach of positivity and optimism and power through this. And another thing that I'll tell people, I think this has been very effective, is in moments of uncertainty or change in the industry, disruption. We had a major disruption this year in the National Association of Realtors. There's lawsuit settlements and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, crazy changes to the industry.
Okay.
To the way business is done. And any disruption like that breeds a major insecurity for everybody, because they've done business a certain way. Now they have to do it a different way. How are clients going to react? How is the communication, the messaging going to be perceived? And so once again, our company took that as an opportunity to push forward aggressively when other companies may have, some people retired, some people slowed down on what they were doing. They changed their business. We went out and we wrote a 20-page client roadmap that updated all the procedures and the way things needed to happen now, so our clients could understand it and so our agents could present it properly. And again, once again, we moved forward when everybody else was shaky and not having the confidence to maybe take the steps necessary to survive and thrive through a difficult time. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
You actually made me think of something that I've been teaching a lot in professional development, is vision-driven resilience. So your vision never changed of what you wanted, but you had to be resilient through the setbacks. And I think so many times people see the vision and they're like, this is where we need to go. But that it's a ping pong. It's not this straight arrow to that vision. It's literally like life's going to get in the way. Changes are going to happen. As a leader, you have to figure out how am I going to get through the setback? How am I going to be resilient? And then vision driven is as a company, we know our vision and what we want to achieve. And I think that is so important. I also, when you were talking, I started to smile because I was thinking about your brain is fascinating to me. And I love it because all the things that you're saying, your confidence in those things, right? And your skill set in what you're doing. And I think that's the other thing that when it comes to a leader is it's okay that you don't know everything, but you're very skilled in what you do so you can lead there. I think sometimes leaders, it's hard to lead something that you've never led before, because you don't know all of these things. You came into real estate since, you've wanted that forever, and you can lead now because you understand the industry. And now all you're doing is now taking it to a different level of leadership skills. Now it's not hard skills, it's the soft skills that you're trying to do to manage people.
Well, you're making another really good point. When you are leading other people in a skill that you know how to do, it's a little easier. Because they can see, they see your track record, they come to you for questions and you help with advice and things like that. And you mentioned earlier that I still sell real estate as well. And I do, partially because I want the team to see me doing the things that they need to do as well, in terms of, writing handwritten letters and making social media posts and thank you cards and reaching out to your clients and inviting them to the office party and making sales and dealing with the new contracts and negotiating offers and helping buyers in multiple offer scenarios. And you stay sharp when you're doing it all day. And when we talk about leadership, I always think I try to be the leader that I want. So if in a leadership, if I'm in a position where I'm learning from a leader or a leader is helping me, I want to see them doing the same things I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Not do what I say, not what I do. I don't respect that. No, most people don't respect do this, do that, do this.
But I'm not going to go do it.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Like 100%.
Totally.
So what kind of leader doesn't sell real estate in a leadership brokerage? You have to.
Yeah.
I don't do it as much as I used to. I'm more selective and I balance with the kids now and other priorities that I have. But I will always be a salesperson because I want my team to see a leader doing the work.
And I like when you even just said salesperson, like I think there's many times when I was starting out my career, I'd talk to you about sales and you just made it sound like it was so easy. And I'm over here like, yep, gonna get there. And now I think about it and it's like, had I not had a person that had that skill set, I wouldn't have been able to learn like, okay, he makes it look easy because of the skill set that he's built over time. And I mean that in like the most powerful way, because I think sometimes you need that type of leader that's like making it look easy, but you know that it always wasn't. And it was, but you're like, that's where I strive to be. And so kind of to close out today's topic about like leadership lessons and just like leadership in general, what do you want to leave the audience with? What's the 1 or 2 or 3 things?
Well, I read a book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. And I think I shared that with you.
Yeah.
That book totally fundamentally changed the way we ran the company, way we organized the company with the principles and that with, decentralized command and prioritize and execute and some of the different concepts in that book. What it really comes down to was empowering the staff. When we have a small staff, a 4-person staff with a 50 agents brokerage. So these 4 or 5 young people, they're all women. I was gonna say young ladies, but the staff that we have has been empowered to make decisions, to identify priorities and to act. And that book really helped because now I can be here with you and there's nothing coming from the brokerage that I need to deal with.
Yeah.
We have an accounting process that's automated. We have a closing process. We have, just operating the building, with changing out the bathrooms and cleaning and accepting and sending mail and postage. There's so many things that happen in this brokerage, but this team, in part because of the lessons I learned in that book that I implemented with empowering others is the biggest takeaway. If you're a leader, you have to empower the team. And it's not because you're lazy, you don't want to make decisions. It's because they need to feel like they're running the company, because they are. So for example, for the last few years when I was trying to put this into motion, I'd get a question. It would say, hey, what do you want to do in this scenario? What do you think we should do? And I would say, well, what do you think we should do and why? And instead of giving the answers, we'd go back through this exercise of what is your proposed solution and what is your logic behind it. I would course correct it if it wasn't right, but we would learn every time. And it became a joke at one point. Don't bring a problem with your proposed solution and your reasoning behind it, and then we'll adjust that together. And then eventually what happens is there's fewer and fewer inquiries because there's more and more confidence. Yes. But you have to be careful, because if you delegate authority for decisions and then they make ones that aren't what you would have made, you can't go back and be too hard on them. You have to be very soft and gentle with how you approach those, or leave them alone. And that's hard too. That's hard for you and me.
Oh, so hard, but so true.
Yeah, leave it alone.
Like, was it that big of a deal?
Right. And when there's decisions to be made, there's always multiple directions to go. And what used to happen was they'd say things like, well, we did this because we thought that's what you would want. And I say, that's not the parameters that we need to be working on. What's the best decision for the company? What's the best decision for the agent? What's the best decision for the situation? Not what you think I would want.
Yeah.
And what that is you're trying to think about what I would want, because I hopefully know the answer, but it needs to come from you and your logic based on the fact pattern, because you've been empowered to make that decision because you own that part of the operation.
Yes.
And now I wrote a 100-page manual of how to run every single step in this business, but we've revamped that, and everybody in the team has revamped their part to the point where I don't even know how to operate a lot of it anymore because they run it and they improve it.
Yeah.
And in closing here, one of the biggest thrills that you get as a leader is when you look and you go into a little operation or a department and you see a new system that you didn't generate because they made one better than the one that you had.
Yes.
And that makes you proud, because then you know that they've taken ownership.
Yes. And I love that. And I love that you're at that point, because I think as a leader for me, like sometimes I'd be like, wait, you're going to change my process, but it was working, and I start shaking. Yeah. But then it's also too like, it's fine. Like it's really like that positive mindset talk to yourself as well. So Awesome, Logan. Thank you for being on the Confident Podcast and just like all your wisdom over the years to myself and to our audience. And so how can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Logan at modernrealty.us is my email. It's probably the best way.
Cool.
But thank you for all your coaching and mentorship and wisdom as well.
We're a team. So thank you again for being on today.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, we just heard from Logan on such an amazing conversation around leadership lessons, things that he's overcome, some of the tough decisions that he's had to make as a leader. And I hope that everybody walked away from one or two things that you can do. I think some things that I even resonated with was trusting, putting my ego aside, being authentic to who I am, and how I need to lead in order for other people to feel empowered and to grow. And so you can listen to this podcast in two different ways, I would say. You can listen to it as a leader, or you could listen to it as an employee that has leadership and kind of some changes that you'd like to see as well. I think it's really important for any role that you're in to really be able to grow in your leadership skills. So you know that if you want to grow more in your leadership, I'm here for you. I am a coach, certified coach. I've been coaching people for years. I really, really focus on business leadership, life leadership, and just being a coach for anybody. So if you need my support, I'm here, as well as Lead has our Lead Within platform that teaches you a ton of tools around confidence and limiting beliefs and how to create habits that really stick to really help you become the person that you're meant to be. So as I always say at the end of these podcasts, continue to spread love and kindness to everybody that you meet, including yourself, and have a great day. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Confident Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, head over to leadconfidently.org for today's show notes along with discounts to our services. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and follow us on Instagram and YouTube at The Confident Podcast. Your feedback means the world to me, and it helps more people discover the show. And hey, if you're feeling inspired to dive deeper, let's connect. You can find me on Instagram at Lisa Tarkington Official. Drop me a message and let's explore how I can support your journey to confidence and leadership. Remember, you have the power to choose confidence every single day. Keep showing up, keep striving, and keep believing in your potential. I'm cheering you on, and I'll see you next time.